racism is great and we should all be racist. Welcome. I am Halo Eden Gray. This is what's next. In this video, I am going to be talking about all kinds of things and also doing my hair. This is what I'm using. Curl Enhancing Smoothie. I will also check this product out as well. Get ready with me while I rant about life and things. Next thing I want to talk about, because I did want to go more into this thing too. So there is a lot of stuff that's going on. So I've mentioned before that like the protests exploding across all 50 states like it did, going worldwide, where I mean other countries were protesting, you know, and just really repping Black Lives Matter. That scale, like I don't know anyone who's ever seen that in their lifetime, even people who are much older than me. You see really anybody like I don't even think people protest for the environment on that large of a scale, but definitely not for, you know, Black lives and what Black people are going through. So this is like really something that I think most of us, pretty much all of us, have not ever seen. But don't lose focus, because there are a lot of things happening now that we have seen over and over again. And one of those things is the performative alliance that people do, activism that they do, the companies. We're against Black Lives. We're for Black Lives Matter. We're against, racism and this, that, and the third, and they'll go firing people and all of that, make an example out of people because they don't stand with racism. They'll be super supportive of Black Lives Matter or whatever it's called at that point. But the reality of it is that they're not actually very, like, that type of support isn't necessarily genuine. It just makes the most sense from a business standpoint. So is Amazon or whatever other company, insert whatever company name, it could be anybody, it doesn't matter. It's whoever's saying that they stand with Black Lives Matter or whatever. Is that authentic? I don't think so. Not for a second. Like, not at all. I don't give a fuck. I said I need to be better about cussing. I'm such a horrible person. Sorry, children. Anyway, it doesn't really matter what company you say. It's not true. It doesn't matter if they have some history of being very supportive or whatever. Like, that doesn't mean anything. It's a business decision. I mean, I hate to break it to you, but like, if the general consensus was that racism is great and we should all be racist, then they would be supporting racism. Like, it doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with their personal values. It has everything to do with their business decision. And so, as a side note too, that's why one of the reasons why I do want to push these companies that make hair products that are targeted towards Black people, not just hair, but also makeup, skincare, anything like that. If these companies are not Black owned, we definitely need to stop supporting them. I don't care if they support Black Lives Matter or not, because how many Black owned companies make products that are targeted solely to white people? Like, we are not making money off of the image of any other race. We should definitely make money off of our own image, off of the products that matter to us. And also, we not just should show support simply because somebody has the same color as us, but we should also be able to have a lot more faith in those products, that those products will actually be good for us. Hair products, it's touch and go for me, because just the type of hair I have is some mixed-ish, so who knows what's going to work on it or not. But in general, I want to have a lot more faith in Black skincare products, Black hair products, Black makeup products. that I'm going to find colors that match my skin, that I'm going to find colors that or like chemicals that are used that are good for black skin, that I'm going to find just chemicals and different stuff used in the hair stuff that is good for my hair. So I think that we should definitely have a lot more faith in that. I think that we should definitely have a lot more, like, I trust more that people who look like me understand the type of products that I might need for self-care than people who don't look like me, because they haven't necessarily studied it and they haven't lived with it. And they don't go to people who do study it or live with it. So why should I have more faith in them? And there's something, and I don't, some of the stuff I say might sound like conspiracy theory, and I'll admit that. Okay, so I noticed when I went, there was another product at the store when I went to Walmart to get the products, which obviously does not have much there at all. But there was a product that is listed as black owned, so I'm guessing that it is. And it was like this size, and it was like $21. And a similar product that was made by Africa's Best or whatever, which is not black owned, was like $3. And I think that also happens a lot. And I don't think it's just a matter of black companies like overpricing their stuff or there being so much of a higher value. Like, I literally think that those $3 prices are meant to undercut these smaller businesses that can't like afford to sell their things that cheap. Also, I think there might also be like a markup that is happening so that you push those products that are aimed at us that aren't made by black owned businesses tend to be super cheap and like way cheaper than the ones made by black owned businesses. And I think that is meant to undercut those smaller businesses to hurt their sales. So keep that in mind. That is my theory, and my theory is correct, I believe. I don't know. Anyway, so we have to be careful though, because a lot of the stuff, like the companies coming out in support of, Black Lives Matter or like against racism, basically, that's what it is. I think that always happens afterwards. That always happens. That always comes at the process. But there's another thing that comes, and that is these kind of push to do stuff that like is just really ridiculous. It's like, yeah, that should probably happen, but I don't really see why we're doing that right now. Sorry guys, I have to pull my head over and everything. Anyway, hold up. There's this like thing that they'll do, like with the taking down, like for instance, the Aunt Jemima thing, the Aunt Jemima Uncle Ben's. Like, raise your hand if you really gave a damn. The taking down the statues. Raise your hand if you really gave a damn. I say as I'm doing my hair, my hands are up in the air, but I don't really care about those things. I'm not gonna lie. Are those things like racist? Yeah. Like, should they have came down? Should they be changed? I mean, they shouldn't have existed. So yeah. Like, it's funny to me. Like, the Christopher Columbus thing. But Christopher Columbus doesn't have anything to do with that. People are so mad. They're like, they're taking down our history. Christopher Columbus has no part in American history. Like, I don't know what to tell you, but like Christopher Columbus, I cannot stress to you enough, has zero to do with American history. Like, really learn the history on Christopher Columbus. Look at the real story. He didn't even come here. Like, it's not even like he came here and he thought he was somewhere else or any. Like, no, he has zero to do with us being in America. He has no part in our history whatsoever. Like, I don't see why people don't know that, and that's concerning. So maybe the statue does need to come down so that people stop being confused about what our history is. That's first off. But the thing about it is, like, okay, so I'm from Ohio, and I went to Columbus State Community College. I went there. I was one of the colleges I attended for, like, I don't know, like a little over a year or so. So there was a statue of Christopher Columbus there. And I probably walked past that statue 2 to 3 times a week. Probably multiple times, actually. But 2 to 3 days, definitely. Okay. I don't even remember the statue. Like, if you said, what do you want to change? What would make you feel better about Columbus State, even specifically? I could probably be standing beside the statue and would not look at the statue and go, this statue needs to come down. Like, that's how much. Why are you laughing right now? That's how much I don't care about that damn statue. Like, that is how irrelevant that statue. See, this is what happens. So people go, you know, there's systematic racism, the racism and everything. Like, for instance, they got statues up that glorify racist people that did horrible things and blah, 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 but yet they don't have black history. They're not teaching black history in schools. They cutting out black history from American history. And we're talking about literally black American history, stuff that black people have done, have experienced, have went through in this country since we've been here, since the beginning. Not even like stuff that happened in Africa, stuff that legit happened in America. They cut all of that out, right? That's not there. But then they'll have this fictional story of Christopher Columbus. So somebody says this, I go, I think the black people want Christopher Columbus statues to come down. No, we want black history to be taught in schools. Like, what the hell? Like, no one cares about the damn the statue there. Who cares? Like, who was really just every day, that statue's running my life. But what's even funnier than, like, people like this idea that somebody was walking past the statue upset is that people are legitimately like, I'm so sad to see this statue go. It was just such a staple in my life. When I went to Columbus State, I would just walk past the statue every day, and I just felt so, no, literally, no, they're really doing that. They're really saying that's not even, I need to find a comment to Jerem, because like it's not even like vague. People acting like that the statue just meant so much to them. Just like people acting like Aunt Jemima just meant so much to them. Oh, I just felt so loved. I felt so loved just looking at Aunt Jemima's face on the pancakes. Like, the hell? Your life is sad, sir. That's first off, you need to get that love from your parents or your wife, or I don't even know how old you were when that was the situation, but you had to get love. You had to get love from an image on a damn pancake box or syrup or what is Aunt Jemima's face on? I don't even buy that product. Like, I really don't care. When I say how much I do not give a damn, okay, about the face on the syrup or the rice that I don't even eat, products I don't even buy, like, no, put the faces back, damn it. Put the faces back and in systematic racism. Okay, that's that bullshit. Okay, and I think that it is done. I think it is done specifically to not just distract, but to undercut what black people are actually asking for. Because then what do? We get this crazy silent racist majority. Apparently, they love to. Ooh, you're really pissing off the silent majority. Like, the silent majority is the racist people. Is that what you? Is there some way we can ship y'all somewhere? I really don't like y'all. I really don't. Is it racist to not like racists? Just racists. I don't give a damn what color they are. Just the racists. I don't like them. I just really don't like the hating that. Let's go on. Anyway, okay. So, anyways, it's like those people come out of the damn woodwork to be like, oh, well, now this is just ridiculous. Now they're changing the doggone syrup bottles and taking down the statues of our heroes. Like, that's not true. But also, I don't give a damn about those things. Like, so then we have we then have to argue about the relevancy of whether or not Aunt Jemima's caricature is racist. Yes, it doesn't matter if it was a real person. It doesn't matter if it's a real model. It was a racist ass caricature. In general, there was literally an actress who would be in movies and stuff who played like that type of mammy character, and that was racist too. Like, it doesn't matter if it's tied to a real person. It's racist. I don't know what the hell you thought. It's still racist. Like, that's like, it's still racist. But now I have to have this conversation about Aunt Jemima being racist, that caricature being racist, which it is. I have to have a conversation about Christopher Columbus literally having nothing to do with American history. Literally didn't even come here. And yes, his damn statue should be taken down. I have to have a conversation about, like, this is the thing. How do you, with a straight face, look at a black person and go, "You're taking down the statues. That's our history. You're erasing our history." Really? I don't know what that's like at all. Like, are you serious how whitewashed history are? Okay, your history is not written on the statue. So, like, I don't even get that, okay? So somehow, black history, not only is there not statues attributed to it, there's also, it's not even in history books with American history where it should be, okay? But yet black people go out their way to learn about their history. And somehow we also learn all about the Holocaust despite not having statues of Hitler. So why the hell do we need these statues of Confederate, like, soldiers to maintain history? First off. Secondly, these, Confederate soldiers were literally at war against America. You know, the country that you tell us is your country and you love so much, and if we don't like it, we should leave. Which is hilarious, because you seem to be the person who's having the problem. So maybe you should leave. I kind of like where the country's going right now. So maybe you should get on a boat or a plane and go somewhere. Oh, that's right. We can't go any damn where because other countries don't want us to come there right now. Life is grand. Anyway, Confederate soldiers fighting to succeed, meaning break away from America. The traitors, they were fighting against America. They should not be glorified. They were also fighting to keep slavery going. So that shouldn't be glorified either. So I don't get that. Your history isn't written on a damn statue, so I don't get that part at all. Alright? And these statues were not put up to commemorate history at all. They were literally put up to intimidate black people during segregation and Jim Crow era. Everything about them is wrong. Everything. All of the things. Just like the Confederate flag. All of it is wrong. All of it is bad. But do we genuinely 100% care about the statues coming down? That is not what we asked for. Once again, I could probably be damn down south and be standing right next to the damn statue and someone could ask me if what I feel needed to happen to make me feel better in America with racism, make me feel like things were improving. And I probably wouldn't go, we should take down these statues. I probably wouldn't even think about that damn statue. Like, don't get me wrong, because it's not like people don't want it to come down, because people do want it to come down, and it definitely should come down. It's just, that's not where our focus is. So it's like, this is just kind of like a crappy consolation prize. It's like, I mean, yeah, that's great and all. Like, that's cool. Like, y'all probably should have did that and everything. But, that's not what we needed. Y'all still ain't arrested the cops that killed Breonna Taylor. So, there's that. We still have a need for affirmative action in this country. We still have a need for Black History Month in this country. Why? Because without it, people would legitimately not use fair hiring practices. They would discriminate against Black people. They still actually do, even with those things in place. Because our history still isn't being taught along with American history as it should. So we still need to have this month set aside for Black history that typically involves us also celebrating various aspects of white history, like Abraham Lincoln and President's Day. So yeah, I don't get that ish at all. Like, I'm straight on that, whatever that is, and all these statues and stuff coming out. I honestly think that those things happen to undercut what Black people are. It's not even just like a consolation prize. Like, I literally think that they start doing those things to make the movement seem more petty. Because at some point everyone gets to a point where they're like, really? And so now they've taken to, well, you know, Disney said they're going to rename Splash something water park. Why? We're not offended by Splash. I mean, like, I don't get that. Like, we're offended more by what led to a movie like that, you know, not the title of the movie, but like what the conditions that led to those kind of things being seen in the movie. And then they, I read recently that they took, well, they're taking in general certain episodes off of Netflix and Hulu of various shows because those shows contain blackface. And then I actually recently read, I don't know how true it is, but that they were taking, they took off an episode of Golden Girls where it wasn't even blackface, you guys. It legitimately wasn't even blackface. For real though. It was, they put on a face mask, like a beauty mask or whatever, cream, whatever, facial type thing on her face. And, I mean, it was a darker color or whatever than her skin, but it definitely wasn't blackface. And I doubt that any Black person at any point looked at it and went, oh, blackface. Like, you not doubt that any Black person was in any way scarred by that episode of Golden Girls, right? A lot of my friends seem to love Golden Girls. I remember Golden Girls at some point, but like, I don't watch them now. But they're sitting there looking like, we have not ever said anything about being freaking offended by them wearing a doggone facial mask cream on their face in this episode. Why the hell are you taking it off? And so then, of course, you know, you're going to get to the point where even like the most sensible, most trying to not be racist person, trying to be supportive person is going to be like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is stupid. Like, why are y'all even? And I think it's trying to undercut the movement to make it seem a whole lot more petty than it is. It's not even a consolation prize. It's meant to make the movement seem petty. It's meant to make it look like, oh, now Black people are so sensitive they can't even see a person with a face mask on. Like, no. Okay. What the problem with blackface is what blackface does. Like, the reason it existed in this country ever at any point, and also its effect. So it was meant to make Black people look bad. Like, it was meant to create this offensive caricature of Black people. It was meant to make them look ugly and stupid and lazy and criminal. Okay, so that was the first part of that. They did it. They wore blackface, and then you know, to portray these characters that were, you know, not desirable people, basically, whether it's physically or personality wise. That was the first thing. So it was meant to be like this dig at black people. Secondly, it's also used, even kind of in recent times, to replace where they should have actually hired a black actor or actress. So it's a way of continuing to underrepresent actual black people in movies. It's a way of not employing black people and locking black actors and actresses out of Hollywood. So you take something like, whenever we talk about blackface, people bring up white chicks. And I haven't seen this movie. It looks stupid, so I didn't watch it when it came out, and I don't want to watch it. But the reason why, first off, the thing about this is always funny to me, is like, we tell you about 25 different movies with blackface, and you're like, but what about white chicks? It's like, really? So like, just that one though? Okay. Yeah, I guess that's wrong. Like, I don't get that. Like, it's so silly. It's like, why are you even harping on this one movie? But the reason why it doesn't have the same effect is because a couple things. Number one, well, the main reason is that white people aren't being blocked out of Hollywood. There's a ton of representation of white people. Like, 2 guys dressing up like white women didn't leave 2 white women without jobs. Like, it, you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't have any negative effect on white people whatsoever. It doesn't affect how people view white people whatsoever. Like, it's not the same. Number one, you know, because pretty much if you're a minority in this country, like, you probably know white people. You probably know lots of white people. Like, you probably have a lot of contact with them. But there are white people who don't know people of color at all, who haven't seen them in real life at all. And at the times when blackface was super popular, there was also white flight and segregation, and and redlining, all of those different things going on. So that just kind of led to even more like this separation of the races. The races have really always been separate. It's so funny when people say, oh, the government's trying to divide us. The government doesn't have to divide us, sweetie. We've been divided like our whole damn life. Like, we've been divided since the beginning when white people were allowed to own black people. We've been divided. When y'all thought black people was... When you thought black people were property, we were divided. So anyway, there's white people, even to this day, who are living and dying, living a whole life, and haven't seen a person of color in real life, like, ever. So a negative portrayal of people of color in a movie has a lot more of a damning effect. Even if it's not blackface and it's like actual like black actors and actresses, it still has a much more damning effect because they don't have real life experiences to fall back on. They don't have, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they don't have like, oh, but I know so many white people, or I mean, I know so many black people that I know that not all black people are this way. No, they really walk around thinking that all black people are like the black people that they see on TV. To make it so worse, you got like the news outlets and stuff that also have a similar agenda that people like to leave out. And then you also have reality TV, which is name sounds, you know, sus. Like, it's saying that it's reality TV. So then you feel like the portrayals that you're seeing in there are a lot more credible. Like, but the news is reporting on it, so it really happened. And it's like, but think about not what you see, but what you don't see. Think about that. Like, everything has an agenda. People are always trying to sway you in some kind of way. A lot of this stuff, though, is just to trivialize what black people are actually asking for. We are not concerned with statues. Yes, they should come down. I mean, that's reality. Like, they should. They are a symbol of racism. Like, they really are. But it's not really high on the list. I think things like whether it's blackface or whether it's statues, like those things would not be so significant if it wasn't for the conditions that existed that resulted in those things. Like, blackface in and of itself isn't really all that offensive. Or any kind of similar image to blackface isn't necessarily offensive. What is offensive is why blackface existed, what its purpose was. That's the problem. So, yeah, we want to fix that problem. The next thing, too, that is like problematic to me, and I think that there's something going on here. Like, I just don't really trust it. Is this thing about abolishing the police, or this police reform. I'm not so sure that that's our agenda or our like issue. Like, I think that's being, of course we're latching onto it because there should be some sort of reform. I don't know the thing about abolishing. Like, I don't think that abolishing the police is a good idea. I think we need police. But I think that this whole thing, even about reform, the things I've been seeing in support of reform and how they're talking about reforming the police, I'm like, here's my thing. How does it save the next George Floyd? How does it save the next George Floyd? How does it save the next Tamir Rice? How does it save the next Breonna Taylor? Like the Breonna Taylor law, for instance, with the doing away with no-knock warrants. That's good. Like, that is something that would maybe stop the cops from coming in and surprising people and them not knowing that they're cops and, people dying because of it. Like, that makes sense to me as an actual, like, significant change. That makes sense, right? Like, that's something that you should probably do. You should probably do away with it. It would have been like if they got rid of the stand your ground law, right? Which they should have, but they didn't. That makes a lot of sense to me, Woo. Who else struggles to do the back part of their hair, girl? The struggle is real. You feel all the weight you should have lost before now. All the weights you should have been lifting. Like, I'm not strong enough to keep doing the back of my hair. And you feel like you look crazy, which you do. It's okay. Anyway, so police reform, the things that I'm seeing, like this idea of sending out social workers in certain situations instead of armed individuals. How does that save a little boy who's in the playground playing with a toy gun and someone calls and says there's a little boy with a gun in the playground? How does that save him? Because they're still going to send out an armed individual in that situation. How does that save, what was the guy in Walmart, was his name like John Crawford, I think his name was, they thought he had a gun. How does that save him? They're still going to send an armed individual out there. How does it save George Floyd? They thought he was committing a crime. They're still going to send out an actual officer. Now, when it doesn't even save Elijah, that's a big thing. We're calling for justice for Elijah now, so please remember to do that. I'm definitely going to look up the petition too for you guys to sign, and drop those links in there. I'll try to drop a bunch of links for petitions to definitely show your support for these things, because it is sad. It is what is happening. It's just horrible, and I hate it so much. But how does it save him? It doesn't. Like, what you're saying doesn't save him, because it wouldn't have been a social worker to come out. They didn't know that the issue was that he had, he was an introvert. I know he said he was an introvert, that he was maybe autistic or whatever, that those were the kind of special services that he needed. That wasn't known. So you still would have had the cops come out. How does it save him? It doesn't. So this idea of calling for some sort of reform that doesn't make any damn sense, that doesn't actually save the people that we're marching for, I don't get that. Like, I don't get that. Like, I'm definitely at a loss for that. And it makes me think that it's not our issue, it's not our agenda, that it's being pushed by somebody else, that the people that are pushing it are probably don't really give a damn about Black lives, and they're just using the movement to push their own agenda. And I know, conspiracy theory, there we go, but that is definitely what I think, because it doesn't save them. Sending a social worker out to deal with non-violent issues, like when we're talking about, maybe domestic violence or something, or, I don't know, a noise complaint, for instance, something like that. Sending out somebody who isn't armed, that makes sense. We talk about public drunkenness, sending out somebody who's not armed, that makes sense. I think there should still be people who are armed in the general vicinity, right? And I think things should be taken off of cops' plates. I think they have to deal with a lot of things that they shouldn't have to deal with, honestly, and that they are trained for more hostile situations, more dangerous situations, and so that's where we should use them. And if we're going to take things off of their plate, if we're going to start diverting certain types of calls or whatever to other types of individuals that might be better equipped to deal with those situations, that don't need an armed, person to show up, an armed individual to show up, then yeah, we need to take money from the cops to fund the people who are taking over part of the responsibilities that have been on their plate for so long. So yeah, I think, defund the police, that makes sense. Okay, reform the police, that makes sense to me. Take some things off their plate, but does that save the next George Floyd? No, it doesn't. Does it save the next Elijah? No, it doesn't. Does it save the next Tamir? It doesn't. It doesn't even save the next Mike Brown. Like, it doesn't save them at all. So yeah, that's nice and all, but that's not really helping. So what actually needs to happen, because believe me, I have my own theory and I have it all written out nice and pretty, but I'm not about to sit here and read it for you because obviously it's long, it's very detailed. We need to impose various, there needs to be consequences when it comes to police brutality. That's what saves the next George Floyd. There needs to be publicly known procedures that the cops take. We need to know, right? So I know there was the Aitken Way, and that came out and people was like, oh no, we already do that, or we've already enacted those types of programs or training or whatever, steps or whatever. And that's why stuff like that needs to be publicly known. We need to know what police do and what they don't. That needs to be streamlined, even if it's just by state or county or whatever, it needs to be streamlined. This is how we handle X, Y, or Z. That needs to be known to the public. And then when they deviate from that, we need to be able to report that to someone that isn't the police. The police can't be policing themselves. They can't. There needs to be, they need to answer to someone who is not the police. We need to be able to report that, a cop's behavior was brutal, basically, not just inappropriate. Because I think that, a cop, say, for instance, why it might seem messed up, but a cop making racial jokes is not the same as a cop, being physically, using unnecessary force. You know what I'm saying? So it's that should be handled and that should be addressed, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm literally talking about police brutality specifically. And we need to be able to report that to somebody that isn't the cops. And we need to have an outside agency look at it, like a Better Business Bureau for cops. There needs to be infractions. There needs to be a punishment that is received, whether for certain things, that are maybe like minor infractions where, you know, maybe someone was injured in some kind of way, but like not like permanently injured. It was more like, oh yeah, my neck was sore after that, or whatever. And it's found to be kind of an unnecessary use of force. Maybe we're taking away pay. Maybe we're doing suspensions. Maybe we're doing demotions. Maybe we are doing firing. Maybe if the act is egregious enough, they're being terminated. They're having criminal charges pressed against them. They're having to deal with civil suits that they have to pay for, that can't be paid for by like a fund or a union or taxpayers. Like they have to pay for it. You know, things like that. If there's no punishment, then it doesn't matter the training. Like, I really don't get that. Like, it doesn't matter the reform if there's no punishment to them stepping outside of that. If when they step outside of that, the only people we can complain to about it is them. Like, it's like saying, I want to talk to your manager, and then the person saying, I am the manager. Like, that tells you right there, you're not getting any farther with that. If the people that we have to report police brutality to are the police, you know that there's not good faith there. So, you know, that needs to change. You know, so that to me is what I think, because I know people will be like, oh, you criticize it, but like you don't have this other kind of idea or thought about what should happen. What should happen is a more streamlined procedure. What should happen is when they deviate from that, there's real consequences to their actions. That's what saves the next George Floyd. That's what saves the next Tamir Rice. If you have to justify the way you acted, what about Castro, Philando Castro? What saves him? That was a traffic stop. Or like, who's going to be doing traffic stops? You see what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm talking about. That doesn't save them. That doesn't actually help the people that we've been marching for. It doesn't help the people we've called for justice. Nothing, all these reforms, reforming the police, defunding police, whatever, could happen. And then you're still going to have another George Floyd. You're still going to have another Breonna Taylor. You're still going to have another, you know, Tamir Rice or Michael Brown. Any of these people, like, you're still going to have that, because what you're asking doesn't actually address that. It doesn't change anything for people in that situation. It's still going to be the cops pulling people over, you know, because they ran a red light, or they were speeding, or because their tail light is off, or whatever. So that's what I'm saying. When they're acting out of procedure, to know, number one, for the public to know what that is, what that looks like, is important. To have access to that. And then when they do it, to be able to say, hey, this was done. And for them to have to justify it. To justify what they did to an outside agency that doesn't have a stake in it, that isn't another officer. You know? But that's just my opinion. So there's that. Let's move on. So